BJ's Raw Pet Food and Great Needs Trust are providing immediate relief and long-term solutions to those in dire need in the wake of Hurricane Helene and Hurricane Milton. If you are interested in donating, please see more information about these organizations and how to donate in this episode's description or scan the QR code as shown. If you're a fan of Word on the Street and Phillies baseball, check out our friends at the Red Corner on YouTube and wherever you stream your favorite podcasts. We want to give a special shout out to the official jeweler of Mum Nation, Jewelry by Joseph. You can reach him at josephpizzo57@gmail.com and be sure to check out all of his posts featured on Mum Nation for 10% off of your order.
All right, what's up, guys? How we doing? Back again. I saw we have some plumes this time. Did you do that, or?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Poured them.
Some pointers from the wife.
Yeah.
This should be a fun one tonight. We got John Barron, Kensington String Band's drill director, coming down to join us, and former captain of Hegeman String Band. So I know you guys aren't super familiar with him, but my family's known John for a long time. He's a really cool, fun guy to talk to about anything mummers. He's been around for a really long time and knows a lot and has experienced a lot of things. So should be a really fun conversation. I'm looking forward to him getting here. And he's actually coming directly from a theme meeting at Kensington. So
that's cool.
Yeah, so maybe we'll be able to get some of the inside scoop, what's going on.
Let's talk.
Yeah. But before he gets here, we have some housekeeping stuff to go through. Hallie will take us through. So what do we got coming up, Val?
So brought to you by Jewelry by Joseph, the official jeweler of Mum Nation. We have our poll update. So our last segment we had, do you like spooky or haunted themes? 91.3% of you said yes, and 8.7% of you said for string bands only. I kind of feel a certain way coming from a brigade, but so there was no votes for no or just brigades only. So what do you guys think? Spooky themes?
Well, I'll say I'm not surprised that yes won. I'm not even really all that surprised that it won by that much. I feel like everybody likes them. Everybody likes a good haunted theme. I am surprised that brigades only didn't get any votes, because I feel like some people, I mean, I understand that certain people might only like it for string bands, but I'm surprised there's not anybody that only likes it for brigades. I definitely thought that this was going to be one of them ones that had a vote at least for every choice. That was my takeaway.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I've been haunted a couple times. I love the themes.
Only once for me.
Really?
Well, I guess technically if you count Dead, I was twice, because Quaker's pirate theme was, I guess, kind of like Dead sunken pirates, but Haunted only once, and I didn't really care for the version of the theme that we did, but I like the theme.
I think I got like 4, maybe 5, counting Dead.
Yeah, just 2 for me and none for you, right?
I was dead once.
Well, last year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, true. Again, we forgot about
the Mexican
Day of the Dead. Yeah.
Anyway, you guys sounded off in the comments as well. So we'll run through a couple of rankings that you guys submitted. Adam Chevicheski from the Downtowners going from 1st to 5th. He said Mickey Adams 04, Bill Bowen 89, Jimmy Good 23, Tom Steamore 13, and Bad News Gallagher 08. So a couple
Mickey
of repeats.
Adams 04 again.
Yeah. And then we had Anthony Staggs, starting with 1 to 5 again. Bobby Galvin 81. I was happy to see that. Louis Castelli, 22. Jim Julia in 2000 for Center of the Earth, because he was a devil.
Yep.
I didn't even think of that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then 4th, he had Jimmy Good from 23. And then 5th, he had Johnny Bielik in 15. And then we also had Sean Smith say he kept posting everywhere about Johnny Bielik in 2015.
I had a couple phone calls about Johnny. How did we miss him?
Yeah, well, he's getting a shout out now.
Yeah.
And then also we had someone post, this was mcruck09. He just shouted us out. He said, nice work, that we're all spot on. And he said, he will say Pirates did a scary theme in 2017 and WoFat slayed the music. One of my favorite years, Ghost Riders and Beetlejuice.
Oh, that's Matty Cruz.
Okay.
Matty Cruz, yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll have to check that out, because I think I've heard WoFat play Ghost Riders before,
so good.
And it's a good arrangement. But I've never seen that theme. And then I was surprised. I thought it was funny actually that Anthony Staggs said Bobby Galvin 81, because I remember when we were preparing for the episode, you brought up Bobby Galvin 81, and I just thought it was funny that somebody else thought of that. I too didn't think of Jim Julia 2000, but even though Center of the Earth is not like a haunted theme, it was kind of like dark and creepy. And then his suit being it like a demon or devil, whatever you want to call it, I would say definitely fits.
Kind of funny how like when you're part of a certain club, your catalog of things that you think of is already slightly skewed from other people. So him already naming 2 downtowners is probably already in that.
He picked 2 Beetlejuices too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Louie and Jimmy.
And I will say too that I personally, anyway, to comment on Satin Slipper, I don't think any of us forgot about him, but the reason that I didn't pick it was I just didn't think the suit was that great for me. I don't like all white captain suits. I think it fit great for the idea of the show they were doing, and I think I probably wouldn't have changed the all white costumes because I think them doing that was a great idea for that show.
Yeah, it was really sharp.
I just pair that captain suit up against other ones I had on my list, just didn't hold up for me personally, but it was good. It was definitely in my like honorable mention territory. But
I didn't even think of it until I got a couple phone calls, and I went back and I watched it, and I thought, wow, that was really good.
So definitely didn't forget about it, but it just wasn't for my top 5. Maybe I had it 6 or 7 if we expand it, but yeah.
So for this episode, the poll is about John Barron. So he was awarded first prize captain twice. And which theme of which he was a champ do you prefer? 2014 second prize, Hegeman's Household Havoc, or 2016's The Codfather, the sequel. So make sure you vote and comment on Spotify now. Sound off in the comments. Make sure you reach out to us for other poll ideas as well. What do you guys think? Any answers yet?
Yeah, I think I know which way I'm going to vote on this poll. I think both of those themes were cool. Both of those themes beat me. So, but I think we're both cool, both creative, both pretty unique shows, both good captains' performances, obviously. I think I know which way I'm going to vote, though. But again, I never say it until.
Yeah, I got my vote, too.
Yeah, you got yours, you think?
Yeah. I'm going to say it because everybody will vote my way because I'm undefeated.
And I think you said it earlier, too, but I was already watching in the background of work today. I had all the Hegeman videos playing just in case. That's
what I did today.
And I'm not trying to knock them, but they were actually watching them in succession, right? I watched them from the time John became a member of Hegeman, which I'm pretty sure, if I'm correct, but we can ask him, was like 89 was his first New Year's with them, I think is right. So I watched them from there up to, I think I got as far as like the 2014. And I was like, man, they're actually better than I thought when you watch them in succession, not knocking them at all. Just, I don't usually go and watch Hegeman on a marathon, but that's some good themes.
We're here at the Mummers Museum. Make sure you stop out, become a member. You'll be out here right on December 15th for Kazoo Day, Hat Day. So make sure you re-up your membership or join if you're not. As always, brought to you by Jewelry by Joseph. We also have some other updates from the Mummers Museum. So on 11:30, we have the toy drive here. So you can submit an unwrapped toy. That's your price of admission. It'll be a really nice time benefiting our local community. And then Saturday, December 7th from 10 to 2, we have Brunch with Santa. So you can actually order your tickets online through the mummersmuseum.org website, or you can get tickets at the door. I think they're max $12, so definitely worth it. And then on 12/10, we had the Memorial Christmas Tree Lighting Ceremony at the Mummers Museum. And then, like I said, come out on the 15th, renew your membership. And then also, if you're interested in purchasing a brick, they're bringing back their fundraiser again. So you can actually email the Mummers Museum at mummersmuseum75@aol.com. Or always you can reach out to any of us for that or to become a sponsor for the show.
Very cool. All right. So now to get into the meat of it, John Barron sitting in this chair with us tonight. 2-time first prize captain, as Haley mentioned. I think he's got about 18 years as captain with Hegeman String Band. He's a 2-time champion with the band, not as captain, but as with the band, 1992 and 1995, and currently the drill director of Kensington. So he's a really creative guy, brings a lot of skill set, great performer. I think he was a dancer for Hegeman before he was captain as well. So he brings a really good skill set. Really passionate about the Mummers, and also a head basketball coach. So definitely has some leadership skills. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So why don't we welcome him in? But before we do, I'm just curious. You guys aren't really as familiar with him as I am. So I'm just, what are you guys most intrigued to kind of touch with him dig in with him.
I was watching his performances today. I never knew that he was such a good performer. It was really nice showman. It was really good.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how his experience coaching kind of follows through into him being drill director, and if any of his qualities learned from captain translated over.
Yeah, me too. Because I've actually, even known him, never really got a chance to talk to him about that. So I'm kind of curious to dig into that as well. So let's welcome him in, John Barron. Thanks for coming down, John. It should be a fun one tonight because this is the first person that I actually personally know coming down, so I can actually feel like I have a real conversation with somebody. It should be fun. But just to start out, like, to get everybody else's, fill everybody else in. I kind of know, but how did you start in string bands way back when?
Yeah, the great thing is, obviously, I think I know your mom and dad really well, your grandparents. I was in Uptown String Band for 3 years. I grew up in Olney, and it was on the corner of my street. And my parents and our whole neighborhood, like what I think the mummers were about, on New Year's morning, you would hear the band start to warm up, and they'd walk 2 blocks to the elementary school and practice for like an hour. And that's the elementary school I went to, and our whole neighborhood would go. And so I knew about Uptown String Band when I was 6 and 7 and 8. And then, quite honestly, like the state of what mummers and string bands are now, Uptown was struggling at one point and put an ad out in what was then the Olney Times, which was like a local newspaper. And all the kids, pardon me, on the street said, "Why don't we go and do this?" And I was the last to go because my mom was hardcore and wouldn't let me stay up past 8:30. And the story that I tell the most is when Joey Watt, who, God rest his soul, just passed away about a year ago. He had his mom convince my mom to let me go on a Tuesday night. And all the guys would make fun of me because my mom went down to the club, which was like only about 8 houses around the corner. And she knocked on the door at a clubhouse. Just imagine if somebody knocked on the door at Shooting Stars or like at Frowns, nobody would answer, right? Guy comes to the door and says, "Can I help you?" He said, "My son's here to join the string band." All my friends were in the club already. And she made sure that it was going to be done at 10 o'clock, and she was there knocking on the door at 9:59 to make sure that I got out. Now, granted, I was 11, but that's how I started in Uptown String Band.
Okay, nice.
Now, that's really cool.
Yeah.
And I know you're a big sports guy, obviously, now, but were you playing sports then as a kid?
Yeah, so I never played in the band or anything. I played saxophone. I mean, I was an okay saxophone player, but one of the things my mom used to make me do is sit in my house and practice, and I hated it. And I would go upstairs on the second floor and just pretend and play some notes and get into other things. And I told her I wanted to quit. And one of the things that Joey Watt and I strategized about was he knew my mom wanted me to continue to play saxophone. So we told my mom that if I could go to the mummers and go to Uptown, then I would be able to continue to play saxophone. So that got her wheels spinning and said, "All right, let's let him do it." Talk to my dad, and then that's how I got in. And yeah, the rest is history, I guess.
So you were there for a couple of years, and then you transitioned to Hegeman, right?
So I played sports, like I said, and I went to high school, and when I got to high school, a guy named Tommy Pepino, who's around in South Philly now, he does a lot of stuff in different groups. Last time I saw him, he was DJ in Quaker City.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Another guy named Fran Schneering was the quarterback of the football team, and I played baseball with Fran on the high school baseball team. And Fran was in Durning, and Tommy Pepino was in Hegeman. And if you remember back in the day, we all went to the shows.
Yeah.
So I started to meet other people in 8th grade and 9th grade. And Tommy was from South Philly, and I was meeting other people, and I found out that there was a guy who lived around the corner from me who was in Hegeman. And ironically, he had 4 or 5 nieces that I would hang out with at the shows, and the rest was history. Where I said to my mom, my dad, "Bill Hauser will take me to Hegeman if you'll let me go." She originally was hesitant on it, but I was a pretty competitive person, and at that time, I wanted to leave to go to a band that had some chance to do well. A lot of the guys in Uptown started to disperse a little bit, and then quite a few years later, then Uptown went with Harrogate and merged and left our neighborhood anyway.
Yeah.
So, who was the captain when you went to Hegeman? Was it Pignotti?
Pignotti was the captain, yes, of our band at the time. But I wanted to go back to his grandfather, his grandfather and I guess it's Tish's your
great grandfather. Yep.
So Tish Bordoni was the captain of Uptown, and then his dad was influential. I mean, his grandfather Tony Bordoni was influential in all the administrative roles. So when I went to Hegeman, John Pignotti was captain, and he had just became captain a year before I got there.
So you kind of started commenting on it in your answer, but I'm going to kind of kick it in this direction anyway. When you went to Hegeman, was your mindset different with the Mummers? Like, was it a more serious thing for you when you moved over there? Because, hey, Uptown, you were a kid. You were only there a couple of years, but you moved over there. Did you kind of look at it different, start taking it a little bit more seriously?
Yeah. I think like the sports thing, which I maybe we'll get into, is I don't know if I even would stay in this if it was not for like my competitive wanting to do always as best as we can. Not to say that Uptown in those years didn't, but I mean there were 20-some bands back then. We were getting 19th, and it wasn't as like kind of dedicated. I think they had some years before that. It just was one of those things that Uptown was sliding the wrong way. Hence the reason why they went and merged with Harrogate.
Right.
And Hegeman at that time was like in that 8-9 period. They had won in the 70s. They were really competitive in the early 80s and won, I think, or got second or third or something like that. And then just a few years after I joined, we were right back in that. And every year you want to have a chance to go up and think that you have a chance to win or at least do really well. And for most of my years in Hegeman in those early years, that was what our mindset was.
Right. And it was still all men, right, when you first went to Hegeman?
It was. It was all guys until the summer of 1991.
Okay.
And then we went in 1992 co-ed and actually won the parade.
And that was just supposed to expand membership, or?
So I guess it's kind of full circle. Maybe it's me. I go to the group starts to go the wrong way. So we had an influx of people. We were really good in 1990. And then we had a deterioration of our membership too. And then there was a lot of conversation with Pop Pignotti. I remember Lenny Camuccio, Brian Robinson, Angelo Lutz, and John Pignotti, and myself. Well, what are we going to do? I think we might have been down to 25 people, to be honest with you, in that summer. And there was this, and Richie Nottis was involved with that too, I remember. And there was a decision to let's talk with the South Jersey String Band, and they were co-ed, and that's the rest is history. We got together in August. I went to college that year. I came back at Thanksgiving, and I looked around and said, holy heck, this is pretty good. And next thing you know, on New Year's morning, we were looking at each other saying, do we have a chance to maybe do well today? By the time we got to the reviewing area, in 1992, we were really, really good, and we won the parade that year.
That's crazy. And, it's funny when you were mentioning about marching with my grandpa and my great-grandpa, you left and went to Hegeman and then wound up with my other grandpa. My dad's dad was in Hegeman, in 1991, the Grim Encounter. Yeah. So it's funny. Yeah. You marched with both of them. What was I going to say? So you played a lot of sports. Was it always basketball, or did you play?
I was actually a better baseball player, but I played baseball, I played basketball, and I played football growing up.
So when you started taking the Mummers more seriously, how was it meshing with? I don't know. I'm assuming you played in college, right?
I did. I played 2 sports in college.
So what was that like? Like keeping the Mummers tradition going, but staying with sports.
Well, I wasn't really heavily involved with the intertwinings in having roles until after college, and I became a teacher and. Went on, to my professional life. But when I was in college, I was doing the summer, like college kids do now. We had a bunch in our group. And I was coming back at Thanksgiving and then the 10 days before the parade. So I really wasn't, they didn't conflict at the time, my playing and things like that. But as the years went on and then I became a high school coach, I was a college assistant for 3 years. And I'm entering my 23rd year as a college head coach for basketball. They're very similar to me in a lot of ways. I think, the staple bands like Fralinger and Quaker have always been great, and Furco of years past, but more recently, South Philly, for the last 20 years, they've been unbelievable. And there's Woodland and Avalon that's always, has a chance. I was always in the next tier group, like Hegeman and now even with Kensington. And I think it's kind of like why I do it. It's fun to try and strategize on how, and I don't talk about winning with the new group I'm in. I just talk about trying to remain relevant.
Right.
And when you become relevant, then maybe you can think about the next step.
Right.
But relevant, I mean, even people in this hobby now, there's people say, oh, you think you're going to do the X, Y. It's not really. We don't think we're going to win. We don't think we're going to be in the top 5. I'm just trying to make the philosophy and the culture to be the best that we can be and not worry about anybody else. And if we become relevant for a few years in a row, well, then maybe we can take the next step. And that's what the goal's been. And I think that's what it is when you take over any college or a new school. You go there, you sit down and try and figure out, all right, what do we need to do to be relevant again? That's why coaches often are hired, because the previous coach either left because you weren't relevant or they weren't winning.
Right.
So you're trying to build a 4 or 5 year plan to try and get
Sure. I think you bring up a good point, because I think that talking about and trying to win is hard.
Yeah, I think two different things too.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not in the winning mode right now. We're just trying to kind of change everything at Kensington. But even in Hegeman, we've been up and down my whole entire career. And I think there's a lot of variables with that, with membership and money, obviously, philosophy, and who's running the shows, like who the president is. Do they work well with your creative team? Are they on opposite sides of the street when it comes to, like, if you're not, it's like again, when you think about it, a professional team. If the general manager and the president are on the same page as the coach, you're never going to win,
right?
Or have a chance.
Good point.
Yeah, no, it's true. And when you talk like that, it kind of makes it even more all that amazing with some of those clubs, the Quakers, Fralinger, and all that are always good, because it is hard to keep that going. But let's rewind the clock back a little bit to you're finished school, you're entering the professional life, right? And then captain comes about, right? So where did that come from? The idea of you becoming captain, how did that kick up?
Well, again, when I first, graduated and became a teacher, I started to take on roles. So obviously I had great people. I think it always starts with that. John Pignotti was captain. I was co-captain. I was drill master. I was part of the creative team. I mean, I can go back and say at one time, I think I was treasurer and a board member also. But there's just a lot of people. Like, no matter how you look at it, there's no book on how to do any of this stuff, right? It's just a hobby.
Yeah.
But you can go in every group, whether it's a brigade or a string band, and people that are of your era or maybe even yours, like, they learn from all the people that were from our era, and those people from the people in front of them. You don't know how do you become a mummer? Like, I don't know. But like, I had John Pignotti and Tommy King, people like Perry DiMatteo, who some people probably don't even know that he was in Hegeman. He was drill master when I first started. Nick Basso is a name that many might not even know, but he was like the guy working on every back piece. I had all these people to hang out with when I was like in my early 20s, and to hear the stories and what the people before them did, et cetera. And then you start to kind of develop your own kind of thought process, and then you're able to contribute as a younger guy or a younger girl. And that's kind of how it started. And then one thing led to another. And then when Johnny didn't want to be captain anymore, and there was some talk about him stepping into the president role of our group, it was kind of like a natural progression for me, because I was drill master. I've played for many years. I danced a year or two. My wife was our choreographer. There was a lot of kind of like natural progression into that. And I think you can kind of look at every brigade and string band and say, typically, there's like a little path, and I just happened to be on it.
Now, it's funny. We were talking before you got here. Me and Billy were looking at some of the old Hegeman like mum tapes on YouTube today.
Some of them I don't want you to look at.
and
No, I was actually surprised.
Yeah, actually, we were saying a similar thing where you realize, like, not that I thought that they were ever bad, but they're even better than I thought when you were watching them in succession. Because I think you can see the progression as you're watching it back to back to back, like in a marathon style. But I'm curious, John Pignotti stepped down as captain, but you didn't step right in
There was
the
one
very
year
first
in
year.
between.
Yeah, was there a reason for that, or?
So in our group, like many, there's bylaws. So John, in the middle of the year, stepped down. So his co-captain became the captain that year.
Got you.
And so I was drill master, and there was a rule at that time that the co-captain and the drill master couldn't be the same person. So earlier in that year, I technically wasn't co-captain. So it might have looked that it should have been me, but the co-captain at that time was John Cirillo, and that's who was captain that one year. And then the following year, then I ran for captain, and then I won as captain.
Gotcha.
So that's how that all happened.
Got you. So at this point in time, when you became captain, you were already a coach, right? Professionally?
Yes. So I actually got married became a head coach and the captain all in the same year.
So how was that? That kind of led me right into our next question. Like you're head coach, but now you're also kind of like a leader in the band. What was it like trying to split the time? And also now you're married. So what was that like?
Well, the good part is I met my wife in Mummers, ironically, the year before, or 2 years before that, I guess it was, 1994. So it was many years before I became acting, but in 1994, we were searching for female dancers. Our choreographer at the time was working at a dinner theater. My wife was majored in dance and was working at the dinner theater like many people do as serving, and she was still younger as well. And then Joe Francisco gets the dinner theater dancers to be our dancers in 1994, and that's how I met my wife. But she kind of already was immersed in this. We're talking about now in 2000, I guess I became captain in 2001,
right?
Something like that. So she already kind of knew what that was going to bring. She was involved every year. So I didn't have to convince my wife to let me do it, is my point. With the coaching thing, I have kind of like a rule that by October 15th, which is when officially basketball starts, everything has to be rolling downhill. Like it has to be already planned, started very early, props and things already on the way. And I think I became pretty good at managing and asking for help early and having people with that wanted to take on responsibility in the group, then take on responsibility for props or for managing costumes. And what I became was like the foreman over top, having the meetings. I think the best at it right now is Jimmy Brown. He's the best at managing all of these people and getting to this final goal. And that's what I like to think we do, at our band now and at Hegeman. But by October 15th, it had to already kind of be way on its way. My slowest time, I think, with basketball is probably in the summer. So that's when we can get a lot of things done.
Sure.
So it kind of matches, except for when I start playing. Like I open this coming Saturday. I just left the theme meeting, and things are, I don't want to go, they're not on the going downhill too fast. They're like still slightly on the plateau. So we're trying to push it down the downhill.
Now, is there any crossover between your roles of being in the position you are now and then also coaching? Do you see a lot of parallels?
So, I can talk on this topic forever. I get made fun of in the mummer world for some of this stuff, but it's okay.
Now's your time. You're good.
So I think that it's about culture. And I think that, when I think of Quaker and South Philly and Fraunger and Woodland and Avalon, they have the best cultures. They have, their people are bought in. And as a coach, if your team doesn't buy in, you can be the best X's and O's and have the best philosophy, but it's never going to work if your team's not bought in. And in those bands, those members are bought in. And I always say, I have a little saying, it's you have to get the right people on the bus. Somebody has to work on the process, which has been me. And in Kensington, there's not just me, there's a group of us that work on the process. And then when you have the right people on the bus and you're working on the process, then the product typically will evolve. It might not happen right away, but it will evolve. Your teams will become competitive. And you have to get the right people, the wrong people off the bus just as much as you have to get all of them on. And when you think of, and again, I keep coming back to the same two groups because it's what I know in string bands and not so much brigades, but like South Philly and Quaker and Fraunger, Woodland, Avalon, they all want to do, they're all going in the right direction. The ship is sailing downstream. And when you have that type of environment, then some of your problems are easy to navigate and talk out because it doesn't matter. Everyone wants to get to a solution. They're not talking about jockeying for positions and philosophy. So yeah, there's a lot of parallels with coaching and what we're doing in our band right now.
Do you reflect on a win the same or differently between the two?
That's a great question because I've only won in the parade twice in 1992, 1995. I think I always say it's NATO. We call it NATO. Like you can not attach to the outcome is like the word we use on our team. And I brought some of this stuff to Kensington. So when you win, it's just a byproduct of all three of those things that we talked about and the culture. And when you do that, it's like you're having so much fun. You're so happy. But I think in basketball, it's easier to get over the win because you got to move on to the next game. And for mummers, you don't have anything till the next year. So I think it's the losses more than it is the wins. The losses are hard for me to take.
Yeah, for sure.
This year we were really disappointed. I don't think that we were, going to be anywhere in the top couple or anything, but I think we got 9th, and our number that we had, we were disappointed. I know I was disappointed. It was one of the few times that I really was let down because I thought we were going to be able to be in the 6-7 range, and we got 9th. It was a disappointment, especially coming off of the previous 2 years.
I was actually disappointed, and I have nothing to do with it. Like, just going back and watching the parade, I thought, there's no way. I definitely thought it was 6, 7, arguably maybe if like 5 was weak. Like, you know what I mean? It wasn't out of the question for me to be 5, 6, 7. I was very surprised that it was 9th.
I often say that we can control how aesthetically we look and what we do. But at the same time, musically is what the crazy difference is between all those really good bands and the middle bands.
Right.
We're spending a whole lot of time, effort, and money on trying to improve that because it's the one. I'm an analytical person too, so that's where I feel we can make the biggest jump. I think we were 12th in music playing. So if we could even get to 9th or 8th in music playing and keep everything else where it was, that's the difference of getting, 6th or 7th.
Yeah, and I think the improvements are more attainable when you look at it from more of an analytical standpoint because you have a goal in mind of how to get better. It's not just you're like, well, maybe if we try this or we do this show, why did we do that? We might be 6. If you can work a little bit harder in music, maybe change your arrangement, work on the playing a little bit, move up a spot or 2 overall, it's going to affect your score. Maybe you're up a spot or 2 in overall prize. So I think looking at it that way, at least in my thought process, that would give the general membership that has to play it a goal to work to because it's something to latch on to. It's something,
tangible.
Yeah, it's tangible, and maybe that's what they need.
Yeah, I think the music thing is by far the one place where we have to really improve. But I'll just go a step further. Like between a Quaker and a South Philly, they're trying to search and grab every half point, 3/4 point, maybe 1 point. So they're spending more money on design and costume. I don't necessarily want to do that because in my mind, the lowest band got 15th and the highest band, 15 out of 20 in costume, and the high band gets probably perfect score. But there's only a 5-point margin of error in there. So I don't want to spend all my money trying to get 19 points when I got 18.2 because that difference isn't the difference in the middle bands. The margins are usually 3 points or 4 points. Up in the top bands, it's very minimal. So they're trying to grab that point where I'm saying we got to go and we can gain 7 or 8 points just in music if we really put a lot of time and money into that. So I'm not in the costume situation.
It's something we don't have to deal with.
Yeah.
The music part.
Right. Yeah. Now, is this the same, because I go back a few years, right? The last little while that you were in Hegeman, there was a second, I guess if you want to call it a second coming of good prizes. You had a little short run there. Was this a similar mentality that you used that you saw pay off? Or?
It was exact. Mm-hmm. So when I first, when I left Hegeman, it just was the right time. All the people, one of the things I can say is when you think about a co-ed group, back in the 90s and the early 2000s, we had membership issues. And typically when you think about membership issues, it's things must be going wrong. But for us, a lot of our band were parents, that met as single people and then they got married and then they have a kid. Well, when they have kids, then one of those 2 parents weren't coming to the group. Yeah. And in all those top bands that I just mentioned, they're all male bands. So they're singular. They might have guys drop out for reasons of family and stuff. But for us in Hegeman, we were consistently having younger people. Then they were getting married. Then they were having kids. And my age, my friends in our 30s, most of them got out. I was one of the few that stayed because I had a wife that understood and she wasn't fully in it. Jeff and Sharon Smith, they met as single people. They got married and they have 4 kids now and they moved to Washington. But one of them had to leave or come and go and we never had enough people. But really when it comes down to is that's, I think, what one of the variables on why we were so ebb and flow up and down over all those years. But I forget what the original question was.
No, I got one for you. When I think of Hegeman, I think more traditional themes, with Pignati and stuff.
Oh, I know what you asked.
Yeah.
And then you came along, and were you the one that said let's do these outlandish themes? Because watching the whole thing today, you could see it progressing, and each year, weird's the word I was coming up with.
That's fine. That's the word I
hear.
use.
I was just saying before you got here, I absolutely loved this year. I have no idea what the hell yous were.
Yeah.
So that's my question. What the hell were yous?
I don't know either, actually.
And it's
Jake
the
mentioned-
utopia.
Yeah. we can make fun of that theme too, but Jake actually says it on TV. He says, I mean, it was really, really entertaining. I still don't know what the hell it was.
I loved it. It's like a car crash. I can't stop watching it.
Well, I tell you, like, again, I think that was the theme, like the way, I know what your question was.
Yeah.
So you asked about the coaching strategy. We couldn't beat them straight on. You know,
Yeah.
Lou Holtz says back in the Notre Dame, Miami time, back in the day when they were fighting against Miami in the Jimmy Johnson era, he tells his team at halftime, Jimmy Johnson like fake punts and runs around the edge or something like that. And he says, when the other team has to revert to trickery, they know you can't beat me straight up.
Yep.
And it's something to that effect. Well, that's kind of like what our philosophy was. I knew I couldn't beat bands straight up. So it's let's try and go in a different direction. So we started to try things. Some things worked and some things, you know, people thought were innovative and some people thought they were so bad, why would you even do that? We did this crazy stage. I went to the brigade and said, if they can do video technology, why don't we try?
Right.
Like I think we were the first group to do that. But I went out and said, I'm a college basketball coach who's inside of this hobby. I needed to go out and get people who do this for a living, who are in DCI, who put on Broadway shows. And I don't call the plumber to come to my house and then tell them how to fix the pipe or second guess them. So I went out and tried. I mean, I think you know that Jane and I own dance studios.
Yeah.
Before she passed away, I met so many different people in this industry as the business person. She was the dance person, but I would go to dinners and events and I would meet people. So I started to say, would you be interested in helping us put together this show or that show? And that's how we got all these extra people that were outside of Mummers to kind of give us this different way of thinking. And then I learned a lot from them. I mean, I'm going to say I get credit for these weird themes, but it really was just because I'm the guy in it and was directing the ship. But there was a lot of other influences saying, I remember the Hell's Havoc year. I just was not going to be a girl. I just wasn't. And
I love that year.
They said, no, I mean, you're doing it. I'm like, I didn't even talk about me in my role in the theme until like August. Because I just was like, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to be ridiculed for it. People are going to make fun. And I never forget when they told me, they said, ask yourself what your best captain's prize was. And I had gotten 4th, I had gotten 5th. And they said, well, what do you have to lose? Who cares if you got 9th too? Yep. So like, who cares if you get 9th? But what if? And then I said, you know what? And they knew my insides, and I was like, you know what? Heck with it. What do I got to lose? And then I say I do it. I walked on the street and then saw the reaction of other bands, other people, and the thing that we wanted to have is everyone to crack up and laugh. And people that knew me were hysterical. And then I got confident. As I walked up Broad Street, I think that was the last time we went up Broad Street.
Yeah, it was.
I went, maybe I can win today.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it happened.
You did, right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember watching Quaker behind us,
Yeah.
thinking, all right, Quaker just beat the crap out of us. And Jimmy Good's first year, I went, well, I think he's pretty good too. And I looked at my wife, and she said to me, well, at least we got second in both. And I went, damn it, not what I wanted her to say. And I walked away.
Yeah, it was fun. I remember Marconi Plaza because I was there. And, you know, people walked around and all check stuff out, and you'd be like, who looks good, what good, you know. And I don't remember hearing anything about Hegeman, but I remember people being like, dude, Baron looks good. And I was like, now, of course, I know you, so it's not a knock, but I was like, really? Like, of all, you know what I mean? Like, but it was just funny. Like, and when I saw it on TV, I was like, yeah, it didn't look like you at all. And it
looked like my mom.
It did. My mom said that it did, yeah. But that was interesting. And there was, I think I came across it like a long time ago, but there's a video somewhere of you giving the prizes.
Yeah.
Well, that had to be pretty special, right? Because I mean, that was the highest prize you got since you won, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was just an emotional year because, I mean, we weren't traditionally a band that won. we asked this group to really, the year before, because we did this kind of like a little bit of a different theme the year before, to buy into this philosophy. And the first year it didn't work, but we did get sixth. We went from ninth to sixth. And then to have it happen, whether people thought we deserved it or not, the numbers were the numbers. And in the end, to watch everybody, that was a great couple of months.
Big deep breath. Deep breath. Deep breath. Quaker got one. We got six.
But you just came up short second, and then you won. So what did you feel like?
Yeah, I mean, like I know that people will judge that specifically, but I would have switched spots in 1 minute. I was like kind of like felt how much the band was happy for me, because I think the thing I learned the most that I'm taking to Kensington from Hegeman was that we really need to take a step back on Sundays and go down and party with all the other groups, or at our own club. And we try and have like 6, 7 of us try and have dinner once a month, and it hasn't happened in a few months. And today we were trying to get it together, because I didn't do that at Hegeman. Like I would leave on rehearsal on Sunday and be in the garage for an hour and a half, and then I would be talking to this guy or making sure the music. I would stop back at the club, and it was time to go home, or I wasn't having fun until New Year's Day or New Year's night possibly. And a lot of the knock at the end of my career there was like, you were not like a normal hangout guy. And I'm making sure that Sean Bluewell, who's the captain of our band now, and others kind of try their best to come to the party nights. And every other Friday night at Kensington, it's open. They were there this past Friday, and it's like good for us to kind of remember that this isn't our job.
Yeah, it's a hobby.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so let's shift into the present now with GK. How is everything going this year? Do you feel like you're on that plan, on that stride? Everything's going?
Yes, I think what it comes down to for me is when I got there, the story how I get there is I sit out for 1 year. It was a sad year too. Like, I don't know how long you've been doing this.
Since I was 3.
All right. Have you ever sat out and like not gone to the parade?
I didn't wear a suit for a few years, and it was tough in the beginning.
Yeah.
Not going to lie, but it was tougher going back into a suit once I wasn't in the suit, because they got better. I went from being the dancer to now I'm the guy over there. So it is tough sitting out, but it made me look at things differently.
Right.
I have more fun. I have more fun now that I went back, where before I started getting too deep, too involved, always thinking about it. You take a loss hard.
Yep. All those things. Yep.
And taking a step back, I look at it differently. I'm having fun now.
Yeah. And I know you've stayed out, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever stayed out once you got in?
No, I guess the closest thing was my first year would have been the COVID parade. So
okay.
I think COVID made me think of it different too.
Yeah.
Like it didn't make me think less of it. It just made, like you said, it just more fun.
Yeah.
Like don't think of it so businessy all the time.
I think what you said though is, you were the dancer and now you're the guy over there.
Yeah.
So for me, like I think when I sat out, I remember that year. So I decided to kind of go the wrong way and get out because, obviously my kid's mom died and I was still captain. It was the year after that. So she gets sick the fish year. And then the following year, that Amadeus year, she dies that year. And everything was like on hold. And it when I say everything was on hold, like the band didn't have a theme meeting without me yet. And I'm like, you gotta kind of just go. And there were others like Janine Dooley, Sean McCaffrey, and Bobby Farrell. They start to take the bull by its horns and they start to go. But then the following year, my attendance started to go the wrong way because my kids had to go. My son's on scholarship playing basketball, and he's all into that. My daughter's in dance and competitions in New York, and there was just one of me. And I decided I was going to get out. And yet, a year and a half later, through the COVID year, I realized in 2 years, they're going to be out. Not even 2 years, one for my daughter, and she's at the University of Alabama. And the year after, my son was going to be out too. And now I actually am thankful that I got back in because she's in Alabama, he's in Florida, and I would have been sitting at home doing Zippo. Yeah. You know, I have my job and stuff, but this was something I enjoyed. But that year that I sat out, I remember that week. I was kind of sad all week. And it's so funny, I complained about, I call it Hell Week, you know, your move-in week for you guys. But for string bands and for middle bands that aren't as, you know, don't have this, 50 people willing to do suits and props, like that's the pressure week. Is everything going to get done, painted? Are we going to have enough people to carry everything? There's a lot of organizational stuff. But I was sad. And then that morning, I went to watch Hegeman. I was there, said hi to everyone. I was like, I'm not captain anymore. I'm just hanging out. So then COVID hits. So Joey Watt calls me one day and says, me and a bunch of guys from the old Uptown group and his friends were going to go back to Kensington. So I want you to come on this date and we're going to go. So I plan on it. And then I leave King of Prussia where I live, and it's a traffic nightmare. I got to leave like an hour, 20 minutes to get there. And I'm 15 minutes away and I get a call to Joey Watt's daughter. Something happened with her in the group text. And then everyone says, all right, well, we'll do it next week. Well, I was already going. So I was there. So I walk into the club. So your question is about Kensington. So one of the best things about them is they were really, really organized. And I had to worry about that in Hegeman. They were doing all that stuff. Started off with Bill Gerner, who was president, and Mike Kavchuk now, and Brian McGuire, Sean I mentioned as captain, Matt Denninger, I can go on, Harry Bradley, I can go on and on for all these guys. Someone's going to get mad at me for not mentioning their name. But they were all really, really organized. They had jobs down. They have a club that generates $50,000, $60,000 because it's gigantic. They have a process of, sometimes they have 2 rentals on Saturday, 1 on Friday, 2 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, because there's an upstairs and a downstairs. And then they basically at some point later after I got to know everybody said, all right, what can you do to help us get organized on the parade spot? And I have all these documents of what we've done. And I just went and shared everything with everybody and said, I don't really care that you take this. I'm not using it anymore. And then slowly but surely it was like, well, what about this? And what about that? And next thing you know, I was kind of in the group with them and helping them. I put a 5-year plan together. We're in year 3.5, 4 now. What we were going to stress, our first year was just about getting organized and like, let's be really organized on New Year's Day and not worry about anything. Last year was about looking good, and it was nothing about music. And this year was the music end. And there's a lot of in-betweens. And I have to admit, the young guys in the band who had never won were now partying when we got 8th, like they won. You should have seen that place. And my daughter comes up and says, come on, man, let's have fun. I'm like, we got 8th. Like, but they had never really gotten 8th. And I look, these young kids, man, then they have a party a month later. There's 100 people at our club. Like, I thought I was like in the winning club for like months. For multiple years there, those 2 years. And it was awesome to see. And then they bought in. And I don't know what's going to happen this year. I think we have a chance to make a splash in the middle group, and we'll see how it goes.
Now, are you in a suit this year?
I went in. I wasn't supposed to be in something last year. I wasn't supposed to be in something this year. And in the last 2 weeks now, I'm going to be in something. Yeah.
You sound like Billy.
Yeah.
Same thing.
I'm out every year, then I'm back in.
So before we have a couple like lightning round questions that we want to do that Billy's going to take you through. But before we get to that hard question, basketball championship or string band championship? Could you pick between the two?
Yeah, I can't because someone's going to get upset. But I will say this: we did a little a benefit last Thursday night for a cancer group that really did a lot for my family, who my assistant coach created a long time ago. And he had never met the Kensington guys. He only met Hegeman people on the way. So he comes up to meet a bunch of guys and says to them, I want to give you one piece of advice, that you, one goal to strive up on. And he looked at everybody and said, according to Barron, his mummers group has never beaten his basketball team's like place ever. Even the year that Hegeman got second, we won the championship that year. So that will be the goal at some point.
All right, there you go. All right, so with that, Billy, let's hear what you got. What are the questions?
Lightning round.
Oh no.
What was the favorite theme that you were ever in?
That was ever in was our 50s theme.
That was good.
I don't even remember what it was that the title was. I did the motorcycle thing
Yep.
coming down.
Yeah.
That we walked in there, it was fun. It was fun. Best time.
Fun theme.
Yeah.
What was your favorite captain suit?
My favorite captain suit has to probably be, yeah, probably the Utopia one, because I mean it was cool. It definitely
beautiful.
was cool. Yeah,
Okay. Favorite music score?
has to be 1996 when we did Speakeasy.
Yeah, that was good.
It was really good.
What was your favorite win?
Favorite win? Probably our hobo year, because we were atrocious 3 days before that. And if it doesn't,
Was that Pig Donnie was captain?
Yeah.
Music was phenomenal that year.
But the thing is, if it didn't snow that day, I think we get 10th.
Really?
Well, what happened was it snowed that day and the parade didn't get canceled. They delayed it by like 3.5 hours. So we had 70 people or however many marshals, and we went to the schoolyard at 16th and Jackson, because we were still over there at that time. And we practiced for like 3 hours. And I remember my wife saying, I think we're not bad anymore. And I remember Chris Nada saying, we suck. We come down the thing on Market, because it was on Market that year, and I see Rich Johnson, this guy who was in Uptown, he was in a lot of mummers groups. He walks up after our first thing and said, dude, you're going to win this thing. I'm like, get the hell out of here. By the time we got to City Hall, I'm like, oh my God, we might be good enough. And we went.
That was a good one. What was your best performance?
My best performance? I would say Household Havoc, probably.
Yeah, you played a good role. Your most challenging year?
Oh God, we can go. Remember, I said forget about half. Of it.
Yeah,
because you've been talking about some of the good things, and so have I. Because there's been a lot of medium to bad things. Most challenging year, I think, was our animal theme. I don't even know what it was called. Like 1998. We looked so good, and people were like, "Oh my God!" And I wanted to say, "Wait till the drum roll on."
the music starts. What was the most nervous that you ever were in front of the judges?
So my thing is, I love pressure. It's kind of like why I do what I do with basketball and stuff. And I tell people all the time, the day that I struggle the most is New Year's Eve. And I think maybe I'm a teacher, coach, you control things. And on New Year's Eve, you have no control.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I really look at it as in front of the judges, but the year I thought that we had the best chance was the Utopia year, because we're coming off second. We think that we have a chance to be pretty good. Things didn't work. My thing didn't work. I knocked over like half the drum because I couldn't see where I was going. We made like an audible on what I was going to do. The stage wasn't together. There were people underneath of it yelling and screaming, "We're not ready yet. We're not ready yet." But we have to go, or we're going to. I mean, it was like a documentary, 4 minutes. So I was scared foot was gonna slide through and break their legs. So that was probably the most nervous I was on New Year's, but it was because of how it was.
What year was your biggest disappointment?
I think it could be this year, because I thought a couple of days beforehand when we practiced, I thought we were really good musically, and on New Year's morning, we practiced in our spot, and I turned to my daughter, who's now our choreographer, and she's older now, yeah. So I turned to her and I said, we just don't have it, and I don't know why. I brought the band together and like gave them this like yelling at them pep talk thing, like everyone's like, let's go. And then we just still kind of didn't have it. Yeah. And 3 days before that, I don't know if it was props altogether, costumes, and whatever. We just didn't have it. I think I was the most disappointed this year.
Last one. You think Kensington can crack the top 5 this year?
I think if the stars all have to align, I think we do have a lot of things going for us, but I would never say that we're going to do anything, because then I would be going against the not attached to the outcome thing. But at the same time, I'm trying to get them to just one practice at a time, and you can control what you can control. And if in my brain and Mike Kavchuk, Sean, and Matt Denninger and the guys that are putting this together, if everything comes together, I think we always can have a shot. But that's also like saying if I had 3 more numbers in the lottery, I'd be a millionaire.
Yeah. And you can just do what you can do. That's what Mickey always said was leave it all out on the floor and it's out of your hands.
It is out of our hands. And I just like the attitude of our group is we're not trying to be competitive or, argumentative with other groups. We're not going down in their clubs saying, wait do you see us? We're just kind of trying to hang and worry about ourselves. And if it works out, then we're going to be happy. And if not, I think this group's resilient and can move on to the next year.
It's good.
Well, if you go back to our first episode, we mentioned that we were really excited about Kensington. We also
that was the thing. Like you guys think we were doing still.
Yeah.
We were doing Monster Space.
Monsters, yep.
But we thought we were doing Monster School.
Yeah,
Monster High School.
Monster
So
High.
we're actually doing outer space, school and outer space.
Okay.
Yep.
It was too close to South Philly. I think there was a lot of dark themes. I think Duffy's doing something like that, Masquerade.
Yep.
We kind of worked with South Philly a little bit to try and keep it going with us doing Monsters. But then after about a month, we said, let's just change the direction. And we're really excited about this actually more than the Monsters.
So were we. I think we said that when we made the correction on like the next episode. I think it was me or you, Billy. We both said, I think I actually like this better than what they had come before. So I'm excited. We were all really excited to see what Kensington's got, and now even more so after hearing some of the stuff. So thanks for coming down. It was a lot of fun.
I appreciate it.
And hopefully you're back talking about how well you guys did after.
I know. No pressure for us on that. Come on, man.
That was awesome conversation. It was great sitting with John, and I told you he's fun to talk to. He's a really good dude, and we thank him a lot for coming down and kind of giving us a little bit of the scoop on Kensington. I'm even more excited now to see them and all the cool stuff that they have coming up with their space-ish kind of theme that they have. So
I would like to see Kensington make a little bit of a comeback.
Yeah, me too, because they're always a good show.
I mean, they were big,
and they don't sound bad. They look good. They had a good suit on them last year, so I'm kind of hoping that they take that and they run with it and they build on it. And from what John kind of tells us, it sounds like they're going to do that. So I'm really looking forward to them. And again, we thank John for coming down tonight. But before we wrap up, obviously, of course, follow Mum Nation on Facebook, listen to the podcast on Apple Music, Spotify, and now iHeartRadio. Don't forget to leave comments for us on Mum Nation or on Spotify directly, Apple Podcasts directly. Leave reviews, of course. Interact with our polls. We want to hear what you think. You might hear your name, as always. If you have an idea for an episode, reach out to any 3 of us. Comment on Mum Nation, and we'll see what we can do. We'd love to incorporate your input. And turn on alerts when you follow the show so you don't forget to watch or listen to any of our content. If you or someone are interested in sponsoring, reach out. Your donation benefits great mummers causes throughout the entirety of Mummery. So it should be fun moving forward. We got some holiday content coming up scheduled. I think the Halloween one was a good.
Yeah, that was
that was fun. So we have some stuff. Keep an eye for Christmas coming up. It should be a good time as we move into the holiday season.
I'm not wearing a Santa suit.
Darn. Check that off the list. But for Mike Jacobs,
Billy Oakham,
Haley Aaron.
We'll see you next time.